All right, everyone, welcome to tonight's school committee meeting. This is kind of our kickoff meeting for the 2016-2017 academic school year, so we're glad to be here. Alice, do you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we're back at the police station. We kind of rearranged the room and trying a new look where we can kind of interact with each other a little more and not have to put all the tables back at the end of the night. That's the real goal. We don't really care if we talk to each other, but putting the room back together at the end of the night's a pain in the neck. All right, so we'll see if this works. I need a motion on the consent agenda, minutes from June 9th, 2016, and oath to bills and payroll.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, we have some guests in the room. That's great. We have you guys on the agenda, so if you want to speak as interested citizens, you can. But we're going to talk about the alumni fundraising later. So,
Okay.
But right now, there's any interested citizens that have anything they want to talk about in front of the school committee, this is one of your two opportunities, now and at the end of the meeting. All right, seeing none. All right, recognition. Superintendent Clenchey, we have a new hire.
We
familiar
do.
face.
It's with great pleasure. This is the first time I've been officially able to do this. I introduced Principal Temple a number of times, but not at the school committee level. So I'd like to officially welcome Principal Temple to Littleton School District. She's by no means a stranger to us. Cheryl spent a number of years with us as the high school vice principal, and took another job in another district. We were sad to see her leave, but we still had a rope attached, so to speak, and we conducted interviews this summer, and we were just so pleased to be able to offer Cheryl the position. Cheryl has had a great start to the new school year. She's transitioned very well into her position. So officially, Cheryl, welcome. Almost gave you a new name.
Cheryl, any opening remarks in your tenure as a middle school principal?
It is just great to be back in the district. It was one of my selling points was that I could hit the ground running, and I feel like I have done that. So it's really been a wonderful couple of weeks.
I went over to say hello to Cheryl a couple of weeks ago, and she told me, and I didn't know this, that you have like 25 years of experience in education, and 20 of it are at the middle school level prior to being the assistant principal at the high school. You were in that student population, so that reassured me. I mean, I wasn't worried at all about your capabilities for us, but that actually, I didn't know that. That sounds great, so I think we're going to do really well. We're happy to have you back. So, thank you.
Other recognition this evening, our custodians. Everybody knows how busy our schools are during the summertime. There really not much difference between hours of operation between the summer and regular school year. Our custodians every year manage to find the time to get our schools ready and clean and sparkling, and they deserve a lot of credit. It's certainly not easy. Russell Street has programs all summer, right up to the last 2 weeks. Shaker Lane has a number of summer programs as well, and the high school is just busy doing a number of other things. Middle school gets a little bit of a break, but Park and Rec also uses the school. And as you know, we only have during the day one custodian in each school, and at night at the high school we have 2 of our own custodians, and we contract services out to our other schools. It's just amazing what they do every year, so I wanted to formally congratulate them for a terrific job, and our schools look great the first day of it. So thank you very much. Our technology team, as many of you know, we had a bit of a reorganization this summer. Our technology coordinator left our district, and we were fortunate to have capacity within our district to take 2 of our tech people and have them share a coordinator role. We have an instructional technology coordinator, Julie Lord, and our system technology coordinator is Natalie Branch, and they've done a wonderful job getting us ready for the beginning of the school year. We have a lot of devices in our district, a lot of maintenance that needs to be done, making sure our networks are ready to go. And knock on wood, hope there's wood under here somewhere, we have not had a glitch since the start of the school year. So that's just fantastic. So kudos to them for a job well done. Our staff welcome breakfast was once again a success and a great time for all of us to get together. Chairman Fontanella and I had a chance to talk to the staff, and I had an opportunity to go through some of our major areas of focus with them and talk about social and emotional wellness. And we brought in a keynote speaker this year, Nadja Riley, and she did a terrific job of talking to our staff about specific strategies in terms of how to inject social and emotional learning into all of our classrooms. It was a nice kickoff to the school year. We also have a partnership with Teachers 21, and they're focusing on a number of areas, including social and emotional learning with the administrative leadership team, and also our elementary curriculum coordinators and our secondary curriculum coordinators. So we have some nice continuity going and some opportunities for us to get together and reflect on terms of what we're doing, and looking forward to moving forward that way. And that brings me to the end of recognition.
All right, great. We have some presentations. I like to move these around a little bit. We have two community groups that are going to give us some information. I'd like to do them first, and then we'll go to the other stuff. So the first one we're going to do is a PTA update. Ms. Bonner, are you ready? I know you just walked in.
Where am I supposed to stand now?
That's a good question.
Actually, they have the microphones. You can probably just do it right from where you're sitting.
Whatever
Yes?
you
No?
want to do, I don't care.
LCTVs on the move. Hold on.
Go ahead. You can start.
All right, we can start.
Podium right up in the middle of the aisle there.
We can do that.
We could, like I said,
Yeah.
rearranging furniture.
All right, Katie, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just stand up, so
All
I
right.
feel better that way. Thank you, Katie Bonner. I'm here as a liaison to PTA just to keep everybody updated on everything the PTA is doing across the district. We had our first executive board meeting earlier this week, so I'll just report on everything the schools have going already. So at the executive board level, membership forms have gone out to all families and staff at all the schools, so those are coming back in, so being processed and turned around quickly. At the high school level, they have a table at back to school night tonight, and they're there to welcome families and help with membership. They're hosting the SAT boot camp coming up. They are working on sprucing up the staff room. Unless that needs help, I don't know. Just to make it a pleasant place for everybody to spend their time. And they're starting already to work on planning the fundraiser that they'll host at the Holiday Bazaar this year. At the middle school, our lead rep met with our new principal shortly before school started to start that relationship off. They sponsored the back-to-school lunch for staff on their first day, which was well appreciated and very fun for everybody. And the first 6th grade kids' night out will be next Friday already. So starting the year off running. Russell Street. The packets of forms are done and have gone home with every family. PTA organizes all of that. They will host their back-to-school picnic on Tuesday evening. It's coming Tuesday with activities for all the families and the kids. They're planning to repeat the annual appeal fundraiser, where rather than selling various kinds of things, just ask for donations to help fund the various events that PTA does through the year. They have decided to sponsor their random acts of snacking again for the staff. So once a month at unknown times, they'll supply snacks for the staff. It was very popular last year. And I believe they are planning in November to bring in a speed painter to do a presentation and talk about diversity of talent and the different ways that talent can manifest itself. And then Shaker Lane and Russell Street are working together to produce the annual directory, which is provided free of charge to all families of those schools. Shaker Lane, I know a little bit more because I'm the lead rep there. Over the summer, we had hosted play dates and an ice cream social for all the incoming kindergartners so that the kids and the families could get to know each other before school started. It helped ease a lot of back-to-school anxiety. We also put together all of the packets of the myriad of forms that come home on the first day of school to help organize that. The week before school started, we hosted a back-to-school fundraiser at Menchie's where Mr. Faraday came in and was behind the counter and greeted all of the families that came in, and the kids loved that. It was very popular. And he was really good at it. The first week of school, we were able to give each staff member a $50 gift card to help with supplies for their classroom, and one of our parents also organized additionally supply cakes of pencils, markers, glue, paper towels, everything for the specialists, the music, art, and gym teacher who oftentimes don't get the donations from parents as much as the classroom teachers do. We also have going on, starting next week, the Scholastic Book Fair will be set up, and that will be open and running on the 26th and 27th, with family night being the evening of the 27th, which is our big back-to-school event. There'll be pizza and drinks available for families to come in, and we will, again, repeat our popular pajama story time with milk and cookies for all the kids. And we get staff to come in and read for that. And then our other big fall fundraiser are the Kid Stuff coupon books, which will be happening in October. It's also very popular, and we provide parents an easy way to opt out of that if they are not interested, which is fine. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Questions or comments for the PTA?
I just want to thank the PTA for the great partnership with the schools and the work that you're doing to help sort of enhance not only enhance the community, but enhancing our schools. Really appreciate that. It's a lot of work.
We really try to make this a community-focused,
Right.
building those relationships, so, yeah. Thank you.
And I appreciate how all 4 buildings are getting covered, so it's not just, early on, and they're following all the way through the district. Alex, do you have something?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
hope to see you later on in the year.
Stay for the meeting.
As often as you want me to update.
Thank you. All right. Next, we're going to have an update on some alumni field fundraising. There's a group of citizens that have organized to do some efforts towards, we're working on possibly getting approval for redoing alumni field, and there was some talk about maintenance, and when we did the track, there was an effort by the LTO, the Littleton Track Organization, to put together a steady stream of fundraising that's earmarked for maintenance on the track. And this group of citizens is thinking about doing the same thing for the alumni field effort. So Maureen Woods?
Yes, hi, Mike. I'm Maureen Woods, and we're kind of here to introduce ourselves to let you know that we exist. We formed this summer. There's several other people on it. This is just a subgroup. And our goal is to start a fund for the maintenance of what we hope to be a new alumni field. We are working closely with the Littleton Athletic Boosters Association. They've sort of taken us under their wing. We're doing a fundraiser on our own next week, the 100 Good Men fundraiser. We're helping with the Boosters' big fundraiser this October 1st. And what they're going to help us with some seed money after they buy uniforms for the people who need uniforms. And we were hoping if we could ask a few questions about your advertising policy. Jillian Shaw was going to ask for some clarification on some things.
So I'm Jillian Shaw. I'm part of the Alumni Field Renovation Fundraising Committee. So we have this great committee that we're all meeting. We have all these great ideas, and I think some of the stumbling blocks that we're coming across is, one, identifying what we can do, how we can do support from our local businesses, things like that. And I think sort of reading through the advertising in the schools, some of the language is a little on the broad side, and we weren't sure how to move forward with either meeting somebody or coming up with plans on how we would be able to then go out to our community, businesses, families, things like that, to see what we can then add in addition to all these funds, so that our long-term goal would be to have a large size fund that would not only help or fully pay for the maintenance, but then also any long-term care. We've seen several other communities that have renovated facilities that we've spoken with, and they have large ways that they have abilities to go in and pay for those, and we're kind of taking some of their leads, but again, we're not quite sure, especially when you're looking at some of the large supporters on what we're able to do with them, so that when we go to town meeting, we have a clear plan on how we can achieve getting large amounts of funds to help support this, since that is a major concern of this plan is, how are we going to maintain the field once this is done? So I'm not sure if there's somebody that we can meet with, or do we just kind of pose our questions? We just need a little clarification so that we can then move forward with our own plans of what we can and can't do and what we can offer.
So we would definitely offer someone to sit down with you.
POC.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, what?
Since I drafted the one and shepherded it through, I'll save our new policy
Thank
person there.
Legacy, this is a legacy thing.
It's a legacy thing.
Legacy.
The policy's written so that we can consider what we call large donations.
Okay.
They are not like little placards around the sides there. But to help us as the school committee do it, we request that it go up through the administration. So your point of contact would be Kelly, and he may have one of the staff within the district actually be the day-to-day POC for questions. But
Okay.
process-wise, it kind of comes up through the administration. It needs to be endorsed by them so that they're comfortable with the recommendation that would be presented to the school committee for consideration.
So with that being said, I guess our question would be too, since that is a process and we are coming to town with this vote, how do we make a plan? Is there a way for us to sort of get on some kind of, or participate in something where we know where there's space? So for example, the scoreboard. Right now at Alumni Field, you have it, I think it's either Pepsi or Dasani that's up there. It was something that they donated. How do we kind of decipher where there are opportunities to have large supporters come in and help us?
So I think the best thing to do is to probably take a meeting with either Superintendent Clenchey or his designee, and we'll get Mike Lynn to sit in on that, because
Okay.
he's probably the most familiar person with the facility, that particular facility, and would be able to identify, what he thinks are opportunities from his perspective as athletic director for that type of thing.
Okay.
And then Kelly can definitely be your point of contact, or his designee will be your point of contact for. And what I would suggest is that you meet first, start a dialogue, and then when you get some information, you can actually submit a proposal
Okay.
that will be vetted by him and brought to us.
Okay.
And we'll go like that.
So that we can identify where we have the possibilities within the
Exactly.
facility itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Have you been able to access the advertising policy?
Yes, we actually
have it.
have it, and I think sort of reading through it, it's sort of, again, it's a little in the broad, like, over $5,000, there can be a proposal. I think for us, it's hard. We can't even go to a company at this point and say, hey, we would love your support. This is what you could get for this amount of money. We don't even know where we could offer anything to them. Could they completely pay for the snack shack? And if they paid for the full snack shack, what can we offer them in return? And so I think without knowing what those things are, we don't have the ability to then go out and contact or start, really building the ability for a fund and come to town and say, we have commitments from 5 major businesses. But I think to be able to even go to those businesses, we need to know what we're even looking at, what we can even give, what would even be a possibility for them. Is there a scoreboard possibility, snack shack? Is there, the media booth, like different areas within that? So I think that's kind of what we're asking is what do we have and how do we go about that?
Okay.
So
Sounds
we'll be
good.
meeting with you.
Sounds good?
Okay, great.
Just a couple of questions.
Just one more question on the policy. It says temporary advertising. Is that, if there was, for example, I've seen in Drake that they have a snack shack. They called it, I forget, we would call ours Millie's Snack Shack probably. And then they had people like Peter Scott Construction had signs on there because the construction company did the work, or a plumber. Those signs, they look like they could come down, when the weather is bad. So
So-
is that still considered
So
temporary, something that?
What we left an avenue for consideration and approval is, at one point, there was discussion that maybe renting to outside organizations, other organizations may want to bring in signs for their sponsorship during the event. And that part of the policy will allow temporary signage for that event there. However, we have had some discussions with people who have not picked up their signs after events, and will not tolerate that situation going forward, because, that we do have the policy is not to have advertising in front of the students during the day and things like that. So if we did let an outside organization come in, put up their temporary sign, and it was there the next day when we came back for school, they'll probably lose their privilege of ever being able to do that again. I mean, that's Daryl speaking, but that will be Daryl's recommendation to this committee.
Just to be clear, there's a possibility for permanent as well as temporary?
Exactly.
Okay.
That
Okay.
you guys
That was
would
my
be
clarification.
covered
Right.
under that
Gotcha.
caveat, because that is for, we had youth baseball.
That was sort of where the
And
question is.
if we had a soccer tournament that was a totally outside group with nothing to do with youth sports in Littleton, that's who that would be, that part of the policy would be covering that.
Okay.
But LADA, we would be considered permanent signage in in-town group, so.
Okay. That's
Good,
good.
Alex.
Very good to know.
We're really
Thank you
looking
very
for
much.
Thank
something
you.
tasteful too, and not too large. When we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do for an advertising policy, the feeling of the school committee was that, they didn't want to enter our sports complex and be inundated with huge signs, similar to walking into a hockey arena. That's what they really wanted to stay away from, but I'm sure there are things that we can do that will still give the recognition and fit in and
Okay.
fit into our policy as well. So.
We
Okay.
agree.
Alex, that's a question?
Is the limit of the advertising that you're hoping for to be promoting the sponsors or the corporate or the bigger donors who are giving, and not using the advertising to solicit more donations?
Say that again.
So the advertising you're seeking is like if the sub shop donates a large sum of money, providing some sort of recognition for them would be that type of advertising you're interested in, not using that space for soliciting more funds for this
For our
project.
fund.
No.
Right.
We were thinking more of if the sponsorships would be the sub shop. The sub shop supports Littleton Athletics. That type of signage, not, hey, come to the sub shop and get a large pizza for $7.
Mhm. Okay, that's helpful.
Is that what
Thank
you're
you.
talking about?
Yeah, and I was also wondering if you would use the space to say, hey, can you do your part and pitch in, check out this lovely facility, can you do your part and pitch in and help us keep it a lovely facility?
You mean almost advertise ourselves?
Yes.
I don't think so. We
No,
haven't
never.
discussed that. We
Yeah.
have so many
That hasn't
ideas.
come up, yeah.
But that has not come up, and I don't see us doing that.
Okay.
I think a lot of ours comes from what other towns have done and sort of, not doing exactly what they're doing, but finding out how they're getting their funding, where they're getting their funding. And I don't think anybody wants to walk in and see a million signs everywhere.
Right.
But, so you have a large company that comes in and gives you a substantial amount of money. We want to be able to recognize them for it. And the thing is as a business owner myself, you don't mind supporting your community, but at the same time, if you're going to donate $25,000, would you like something back on behalf of your business? Or, not just a name, but do you want your logo there? We want to kind of know what we have the ability to work with and what we can talk about with companies, and if that's even a possibility for us.
And do you know the time frame? Are you going to be waiting until after town meeting to begin these conversations, or?
No, we'd like to start earlier, and I think that's why we're here tonight. We want to get rolling and finding out what the possibilities even are. So even if we can't get someone to 100% commit to it, maybe we can say, there's a possibility to sponsor the snack shack. There's a possibility to do the sign, whatever it is, so that we can at least go and start these conversations with these beer companies to find out if it's possible. And they may commit to us, saying if this alumni field moves forward and this happens, we would be more than happy to support you guys by giving you this amount of money, and in return, we would be able to have our logo on your snack shack.
Great.
That'd be great.
And then my last question, and if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't have an answer for this, but I'm curious, so I'm going to throw it at you anyway. Do you have a goal for, an annual goal for how much you're hoping to
We
raise?
do. I think we were looking to not only get a seed fund of about $50,000, but our goal would to be to identify areas within that facility that someone could support for a period of time. So for 1 year, you get this space with your company information, and then that year is up, and then it's somebody else where they could renew. So not only would there be a hunk of a seed fund, but then each year you would have additional funds that would come in as new or the same business pays for that space again.
Excellent.
So it's not just a one-time, it would be a turning over. That way, in 10 years, you still have revenues coming in for the maintenance as well. If you ever had to do either the grass or whatever is replacement, you have that money there.
And is your vision that the fundraising committee would be a permanent function to
Yes, we make
manage
a
that
set of
funds?
process, where those are, what they are, how much they were run for, and then that way, no matter who was running that committee, that process would be in place and it would just continue to move on.
If I look to my left, I'm sure I'll see Daryl smiling. We're process people.
He likes process.
He likes process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's a lot of interest going on about the alumni field thing, and it's nice to see some proactive measures being taken to show the community support for it, so thanks very
We
much.
appreciate your support.
All right, we have 2 actual field trip requests from the middle school. Ms. Temple.
I'm here on behalf of Beth Morgan and the 8th grade team to ask permission once again this year for a field trip that they have gone on in the past. The 8th grade team would like to take a field trip to Pack-Monadnock in Miller State Park in New Hampshire on Friday, October 7th, to take part in the hawk count. This is a national tally of raptors as they migrate south. Pack-Monadnock is the preferred location because the hawk count has experts at the summit that help the kids find the clusters of birds as they are riding in the thermals, and they also explain the migration to the students. The science class, in the science class, 8th grade students study forms and functions of raptors, so it's connected to the curriculum. The trip also fosters good health, physical education, and team building. In the past, it's been a very successful trip. The 8th grade team picks Pack-Monadnock because it has a road to the top, so all students can participate even if they're unable to hike to the top. They regularly station a chaperone at the top in the event that a student needs a ride down because of injury or illness. So they're asking for permission for that trip on October 7th.
It's an out-of-state trip, not too far out of state, but nonetheless, it does cross the state line. Our policy requires that we approve all out-of-state field trips.
Any question, comment?
Questions, comments?
Can we have a presentation from the students after the field trip? That's always nice to
Yep.
get a little bit of feedback on what they learned.
Any other questions?
No.
Want to have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the field trip to Pack-Monadnock in New Hampshire on 7 October.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None? All right, and then we had it wasn't quite didn't make the agenda, but we have a second one that we want to get approval for.
So the second field trip, and I apologize for the lateness, I think the confusion was that Valerie Finnerty thought that this was approved through the previous principal at the end of last year, so I apologize. This is a field trip, a leadership conference for National Junior Honor Society students. Valerie Finnerty would like to take 2 groups of 4 students each to Manchester, New Hampshire, to Southern New Hampshire University for a leadership conference on September 29th. There's team building activities and different workshops that the students can go to as part of their National Junior Honor Society. She's asking permission for that.
Is that to Manchester or Merrimack?
It's to Manchester.
It says Manchester right on the flyer.
I don't have that flyer.
Now you have to walk all the way over here.
Only you have it.
I'll make it a paper airplane. Shoot it over.
Well, spitball.
All right, do you want a presentation from those guys when they get back?
I think that would be nice.
Yeah, right?
Would be nice.
They're going to be leaders, they got to lead in front of the people.
That's right.
All right, entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve the field trip to Manchester, New Hampshire on September 29th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, thank you, Cheryl.
Great, thank you.
All right, we have a couple of presentations by our Energy Education Manager, Dave Riley. Dave, you gotta come somewhere closer to a microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
We could use the podium.
Yeah, you could use a podium if you really need that. You'd like to use a podium, that's fine.
This works.
All right?
Does this work?
Sure.
Sure.
No, it's actually called a lectern unless you step up. Because the podium refers to your feet.
That's true. That's a good point.
First of all, Steve. One too many. Okay. I just want to say that the energy program would not be working without a team effort. The last 3 years, really concentrated on getting the students more involved, the teachers involved, the principals, and the support staff. The custodial staff has been great in helping us to facilitate certain things that I'll talk about a little bit later. Steve Mark's been very creative in finding us some money to get some things accomplished and paid for. And obviously, the superintendent and the school committee for adopting the policy back in 2007. So today, our cumulative cost avoidance is $1,681,757, which is a 34.5% reduction in our energy. If you take our expenses of $443,350, we get a net savings of $1,238,407. Our expenses at this point are a lot less than the first 4 years. When we were under contract with Sept, that was a $66,000 a year contract for 4 years. They also mandated me to go on 3 training trips, which were mainly down south. Now, even though we're off contract, they still support us. I'm only required to go on 1 training trip a year, and they have 2 online virtual training classes that I need to take throughout the year. So that yearly figure has gone down significantly. What's important is the fact that we've been able to maintain the 34.5% reduction in our energy use, Steve. And this always impresses me that our greenhouse gas reductions, we've prevented 664 metric tons of carbon dioxide from going up into the atmosphere, which equates to 1,472 cars not driven for a year, or 181,125 tree seedlings planted and grown for 10 years. We've had several factors that impact our program savings that we've had to compensate for. Our building use, as I mentioned before, has gone up significantly. From 2008, when we started the program, the auditorium, cafeteria on nights and weekends has more than tripled. The Russell Street CASE program, compared to 2010 on our energy use, now that it's being air conditioned, we've had an increase of 45% increase in kilowatt hours, and it's also a 224% increase in cost in our cost to operate that. Our energy policy states that we are supposed to be keeping our cooling days to 74. They require 68, which costs us a little bit more money. This, however, is compensated by rent from them. Our water costs have also gone up. If we take a 2008 to 2014 year average and compare it to 2014, we've had a 109% increase in the cost and a 42% increase in usage. We've had a couple additional fees since 2014. There's a debt service fee of 0.13 cents. Instead of going up in the rate, they charge that per cubic foot. And for what we use, it ends up being fairly significant. We also, starting in 2014, we have a fire protection fee that they provide for at the high school, middle school, and Russell Street Elementary School. Shaker Lane doesn't have a fire protection program. So for example, 2015, we had extra costs for just the debt exemption fee and fire protection fee of $4,000 and $7,000. Another issue was this summer with the hot weather and the lack of rain, the quarter inch of rain of water that we were putting on the 10 acres of fields wasn't enough. Kevin Hunt investigated it and did some calculations and figured out that we needed a minimum of 1 inch of water to maintain the fields properly. This comes out to a figure for the 10 acres of approximately $35,000 if we don't get any rain. They were able to work with us and reduce or eliminate the debt service charge, bringing the price down to $27,242, which was give us a savings of 22%. Steve? We've also had an increase of installation of air conditioners, the weight room and the storage room. Sage Closet at the high school with an increase of 4% air conditioning. Shaker Lane, we've had to put air conditioning in 7 classrooms to accommodate students. That was a 10.9% increase in our air conditioning and obviously our costs. We've continued to upgrade our wireless internet. We've increased our iPads and iPad cards, and also an increase in the large screen TVs for classrooms. What we've been able to do to compensate for that and keep the 34% going is everything is tracked on our Energy Cap Pro. That's the third-party software that we use to keep track of everything. We can see changes, we can predict changes in our energy use from the database. Because we're an Energy Star partner, we also track everything through our Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And all 4 schools are Energy Star certified and still maintain the Energy Star certification. Audits of buildings, days, nights, and weekends is very important. We go up on the roofs, we check, see what's going on at nights, weekends, holidays, and that's very important to find equipment that's not working properly. Communication is another important thing. Our monthly cost avoidance reports are sent out to you and the staff, emails to teachers on a regular basis. I have posters and bulletin boards at all the schools showing our monthly savings. I maintain an energy website where everything is on there, our savings, our policies, ways to save energy at home, our awards are all on the website. And like I mentioned earlier, training is still, even though we're not under contract with Senator Jester, they still provide training classes. I had 10 classes that I had, online classes that I was responsible for taking a couple of weeks ago. And I have a training conference coming this winter in Dallas, Texas. Steve? I've mentioned this before, they're invaluable, the little data loggers. When we find a room that's being overheated or too cold, or if we think there may be a problem with humidity, these are used on a regular basis and they can help us to find problems immediately and correct them. A few years ago, the electric company was very nice in providing us with smart meters where we can log on at any particular time and get a 15-minute reading of all our energy use separately at each school. This chart right here is looking for demand. And if you look, excuse me, if you look at the little spike right here, right in the middle, that was when we used the most electricity at the high school on that particular day. What we're able to do is look at that demand and we can adjust equipment, start and stop different equipment at different times to help lower that demand and save us a significant amount of money per month. Steve? Steve was able to put together a great program last year. And what we did is we installed new high-efficiency evaporator fan motors that go in all the walk-in freezers, and they are right there. And the program cost us $5,600 with a savings of almost $2,700 a year, 19,259 kilowatts of savings, with only a 2-year buyback on those. So that was a good investment for that. Also, we were able to, in January, Steve was able to finance frequency drives for the 20 horsepower boiler motors at the high school. Since the high school was built, these 20 horsepower motors, as soon as it gets 55 degrees out, those motors go on at 100%, and they stay on 100% until it goes below 55 degrees, above 55 degrees. Variable frequency drives were installed here, and what that does is they're hooked up to the energy management system, and depending on the weather, those motors do not have to run at 100%. So at 55 degrees, they're probably only running at about 30%. One of the cold winter days that I went in, they were only running at 66%, so it's a huge savings. It was a $14,000 investment with an $8,000 a year savings, 59,000 kilowatts with a 21-month payback. Going along those lines, it was also noted that we should also do Shake Lane. Shake Lane has 4 frequency drives. Those were installed this summer at a cost of $11,700 with a $4,900 a year savings, 35,000 kilowatts, with a 27-month return on investment. And that was paid for by the town green community grant, which was great for us. Anytime we have any equipment that breaks down, it's replaced. This is the hot water heater at Shake Lane that popped a leak in the middle of the winter, and we had to replace it. And it was replaced with a high efficiency Energy Star rated hot water heater. Also, being paid for by the town green community grant are LED parking lot lights, perimeter lighting for Shake Lane and Russell Street. I believe all the equipment has been delivered, and we're just waiting for that to be installed. So that was a great gift from the green community. I met with a HVAC engineer about 2 weeks ago when we were walking up on top of the roofs of all the schools, and they have some new equipment out that just came out fairly recently that I'm looking into, and they're digital RT controls for the rooftop air conditioning heating units. And they can fit on 5 to 20 ton units and to control the air conditioning and heating. An example of for a 5-ton RTU unit, the cost of installation and for the controls is $4,800. It's a $1,500 a year savings with a 2.8-year buyback. So that's something that we might be able to look at for a future investment. Also, the green community, when they did their school town audit, they came up with some suggestions that we need to look into, and we have been following up with. And just some of them are LED lighting for the rest of the parking lots, building perimeters, gymnasiums and classrooms. There's a couple schools where all of the insulated domestic hot water pipes aren't insulated properly, and we can save some money there. Control hot water recirculation pumps and demand control ventilation for classrooms and auditoriums. Get more control with those on our energy management system. They also recommended a retro commission and upgrade of our energy management system. The system that we do have is working. It does work well. There are some on the market now that would give us better controls of what we're doing. The last 3 years, we felt it was important to get the students more involved with what we're doing. So we started some green teams and some green team initiatives. And the purpose is to instill students a generational responsibility for reducing environmental impact and cost, and improving health and wellness. Trish Bonacker, Greg Gillette, and myself, 3 years ago, went to a conference up at Mount Wachusett, where they were talking about green schools, green communities, and green ribbon. And we have, at the high school, we have a certified green team with Elizabeth Berry being the advisor. We have a certified green team at the middle school, Vale Affinity being the advisor. Yvonne Cook is also an advisor at the middle school as well. And Valerie Finnery is taking over the advisor this year. Last year, with a grant from LEF, we built compost piles at the high school and the middle school. And the picture didn't come out too great, but on the right, that's Trish Bonacker explaining the composting program at the middle school. And that's alive and well and going well at this point. Tiger's Den also has some things going on. They're growing vegetables in their little greenhouses and then planting them outside. At the high school, Sylvia Jackson and Ethan Rombacher did a green team assembly where they talked about reusable water, their reusable water bottle program, island reduction program, composting, drinking, book charity, and greenhouse greens. Putting this all together, when we went to the green ribbon presentation up at Mount Wachusett 3 years ago, we realized that to be a green ribbon school was fairly involved. There's three pillars of excellence that need to be met. Reduce environmental impact and costs, improve health and wellness of students and staff, provide effective environmental and sustainable classroom, incorporating STEM, civic, and green pathways. We've been working on this over the last 3 years, and we submitted the application to the state, who then submitted it to the Department of Education, and we were one of 47 schools in the country and the only one in Massachusetts to receive the award. So, and thanks to Kelly, who invited Elizabeth and I to go to the State House to receive the award, and also the opportunity to represent the school in Washington, D.C. And Elizabeth Berry and I went down there and received the award from the Department of Education. And then in closing, you never know who you're going to run into. At the conference afterwards, I got a tap on my shoulder, and this young lady looked at me and said, "Mr. Riley, is that you?" And I said, "Yes, it is." She says, "Well, I'm Emily Riordan, formerly Emily Nutt, and you had me in class 40 years ago." So that was quite an experience. Emily is the community project manager for the Center of Green Schools in Washington. We've been in contact, and she's going to be an excellent resource for us as we move forward with our green teams.
Steve, can you go back up to the second slide in this presentation? One more. No, one. So, almost $1.7 million in savings against $443,000 in expenses. That's a 279% rate of return. If we were a corporation, we'd be knocking it out of the park. And our investors would be.
That's over a 6-year period.
The Shark Tank would love us. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but how long have you been doing this now for us?
Well, a couple things. Not that I'm old, but this is my.
Weren't you retired when you started doing this?
This year was my 63rd first year, my first day of school. I've been in town, working for the town for 43 years.
Right.
I've been retired
But doing this green initiative thing,
since
that
2008.
2008, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were more or less retired right then, right?
I was. Diane Peters called me back and said,
Steve, go back up one slide. I mean, I appreciate you showing this, the pyramid here, and it's clear that it is a, system-wide effort. But you've taken the bull by the horns here. I mean, you ran with this. If we didn't have you out there pushing all these other entities to do this, we wouldn't get to this 279% return rate. It just wouldn't happen. So I really appreciate you, you've been around as long as I have. I think this was the first year I was on the school committee, we started thinking about this. And the follow-through by you alone has been terrific, and we really
I've enjoyed
appreciate it.
it.
Yeah. Well, it's evident.
When I did the chart, I didn't know where to put myself, so if you see, I'm right up there. I put myself in the background looking around.
And to be clear, if I may, I mean, Dave comes in a lot on weekends, he comes in during vacations when the buildings are closed.
Oh, yeah, he sneaks up on me all the
He's
time.
up on the roofs. He's helped us identify some other maintenance issues while he's on the roof. He says, hey, Steve, did you know about, or, so he's been very valuable to the school system, and I'd like to thank him.
I'd certainly echo that. Thank you, Dave.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Yeah, I first just want to say I love this presentation every year. I think this is the most informative in my tenure here because there's so much to talk about. So I am just absolutely thrilled about this program. And I was a student of yours in 2006, the year that you joined the school committee, and I was in the old middle school. So if everyone's waiting for the time frame.
I just want to make Dave feel old, not me.
Well, here you go. And I turned 23 yesterday, so I'm graying. But I do just want to say that this is incredible, and I brag about it all the time. And it's not just excellent from a budget perspective, but certainly from when we talk about climate change, when we talk about this drought that we've had this summer, the hottest summer we've ever had. Little things like this do make an impact on a larger level, especially as the world is becoming more warm. The impact is further even more. But I also think it's a wonderful lesson to the students about civic duty and engagement and about doing your part. And the composting piece probably isn't reflected in here in terms of the metric tons, but that still has an impact, and you could measure that. Probably not worth our time to to measure that. But the impact goes far beyond the dollar, which, as Mike said, if this was the Shark Tank, we'd be hitting it out of the park. I think we're already hitting it out of the park. I think we're hitting it out of the park more than we're able to say here, and I could not be prouder. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely great. I just concur with Alex that what you're doing here, I know I have kids in the system. I'm thrilled that they're, can be a part of this. And also, not to make you feel old, but you were my teacher 26 years ago.
26 years ago.
All right.
I wasn't around then.
All right, thank you, Dave, appreciate it. All right. Moving along, we are on old business, and we have the library trustees are here to talk to us this evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is David Sill, and with me is Sam Alvarez, the library director. Okay, and we're just here to give you just a quick update on our progress so far, and probably a change from the last time I spoke to you. I won't go over everything. You all have the presentation in front of you, but since 2009 we've been working on this, and follow the timeline there, and we come up to now, and we have finally voted on a site, okay, which some of you most likely will, most all of you. And anyway, before I get to where the site is, I'd just like to say, without reading all of this, we have decided that we really need a new library for all the reasons listed here. It's very difficult to make our old library ADA compliant because in renovation there'd be different floor levels and a bit of other difficulties making new match with old. Okay, but anyway, I'd like to introduce the slope site plan Okay, oh, we do have a presentation up there. Okay, that's the slope site. It's got some extra parking. That's the library there. It's kind of a wing configuration. And the first thing people ask is about the ball field. Okay, and it's the edge of the library property actually, from this from this drawing here, looks like it's in the tree line. Okay, so if anybody puts a ball in the trees, they did really well, so. Anyway, this is the slope site plan, and that's the site that we have, the library trustees have chosen, pending approval. You can see some of the close-ups there, the wing feature with the alcove entryway. This is all preliminary design, is subject to minor changes, and the interior of the library, while it's been laid out here in the plan, is not quite set because naturally it needs to be very closely looked at. That's a view there from the side of the hill on the left, and then from the ball field at the lower right of the picture there. That's the view from down below. Okay, and there's that's the upper floor plan, and you would enter the library on the top floor, right straight level from the parking lot. And there'd be a floor below that. That's the top floor there. And as I said, the configuration isn't quite set, but that is the layout of the building and the size, which adds up to 25,000, over 25,000 square feet, which gives us a large increase over the existing library. That's the lower level, okay? There's an exit in the back or an entrance into that. I'm not sure if we used all the time. And there's also a service road for fire equipment. And that means that the road in the back would have to be improved. They call it the path, but I eventually think it's going to end up being a road. Okay, so we've decided not to renovate because renovating the library as it seems now with an expansion wouldn't be the cheapest route. And also, if we were to build a new library, we free up a lot of space for the COA and Park and Rec and school administration and the historical side or others to be able to expand into the space that we would be vacating, which I think is a great idea. And the slope site keeps the library close to the other town functions. It's just across the parking lot. And I know that a lot of people really have strong feelings about keeping everything close in a campus kind of a setting. So our next steps, we have a geotechnical analysis of the site is about to begin with your approval, thank you. And we're continuing to work with the building committee, PMBC, to finalize the design. Actually, we haven't even come up with the design yet totally to get to them. We have a cost estimator working on the cost assessment, and we have a deadline to submit the grant to the state in January of 2017. We also have a deadline of October 7th.
October 7th is when the planning and design grant is officially over, which is what we've been doing for the past 2 years. We received a grant for $40,000 from the state and $20,000 at a town meeting.
So we do need to move forward soon. So we're working with all the boards. We're having meetings wherever we can, and we're also doing fundraising to offset the cost to the taxpayer. Do you have any questions?
Thoughts, questions, comments?
Okay. And of course, I guess I would be asking this evening if because of the property issue, the trustees would be asking the school committee to allow us to use a piece of property for the library. And I understand by the way it works is that you declare it surplus, and the selectmen take it, you go, give it back to the selectmen, and the selectmen go from there. I understand that's how it works. So,
Do we have an understanding with the selectmen?
So what I was going to do is let them finish, and then I was going to pick up a relative to all the property control issues.
All right, we'll do that. So let's have a discussion, any discussion that we want to have about what was presented by David tonight, and then we will have a subsequent discussion right now, after that, about the whole parcel situation.
thank you, Jim.
All right. So any questions in general on the library plan as presented, the slope site, which is different than what we had heard last spring, where we were talking about possibly using the tennis courts and trying to manage that transition, and because that did have an impact on our school, because we have a team that plays there, but now it sounds like that's no longer an issue.
Well, there were a lot of obstacles that prevented us
Beyond that.
from moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. So, new plan, new ideas, thoughts or comments?
I just really appreciate the communication that the library board has exercised throughout this whole process. There hasn't been a time since you started to gain momentum that I didn't feel informed as superintendent. So thank you very much for the communication plan.
Thank you for listening to us.
I thought this was a very informative presentation. I feel like I had all the information I needed. And I really appreciated, in particular, as Kelly alluded to, the description of the process, starting with 2009 and then this year going into a little more detail. I've heard conversations around town about what has the process been, and it's pretty clearly delineated here, and I think it's important. And I'm glad that we're very straightforward with it. I love the design. And when I'm in the library, I see a lot of young folks, not just kids with their parents, but high school age, middle school age kids in there studying, reading, just spending time after school there, and I think that's excellent. And looking at this facility, I can only imagine that would increase. The current building is not the most attractive of places. No offense intended, but this building is incredible, and I think with the opportunity to pick up on some of that state funding, I think it's a great opportunity for the town and for the schools, because we are so close, and because the currently a path is so close to connect some of our schools. I think it's one of the reasons I love the way we have our town services set up that way. I think it really benefits us as a small town that we can provide that. So thank you for the presentation.
Okay. I'm glad I got to hear. I'm glad that we got to hear the presentation just before we stood up, because that makes me think. Well, we want to have a green building, but I think we could learn a lot here just from listening to this gentleman here for a while. So
we do.
We won't steal it, but maybe we can listen to them. Make our building just as efficient as yours is.
Be careful what you wish for. I mean, he gloms onto something, you don't let go. All right, anybody else? I'd just like to say that, we're going through the master plan update process, and we've solicited a lot of community input. We're going to get more as we go through that process. But one of the things that's emerging as a sort of consistent theme from community input is the desire for more amenities in town for this type of programming. Whether it's a community center, the library, a council on aging center, something along those lines. There is clearly a strong current of desire for that by the people in town. Obviously, planning and funding are the real roadblocks. We all would like to see this. It's just a question of where does it fit in the priority list, and how do we, as a town, absorb all of these great ideas and implement. But significant amount of work being done, and in line, I think, with what the community is striving for, and hopefully we can all work on it and get there together. So
Good. That'd be great.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now let's have a quick discussion about the whole parcel.
Right. Yeah, so Alex, before you criticize the library, it's school property.
I wasn't criticizing the library.
So, and
that would never stop me.
And so what I'd like to start off with is just a little bit in terms of, there's a lot of administrative pieces that need to be cleaned up in terms of being able to actually execute this project here. What I have up on the screen here is currently the school lot. It's about 35 acres, I think, or 40 acres, somewhere around there. It actually consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 sublots that have been acquired over the last 100 years there. When town council was researching the ownership pieces, they had to go back pretty much almost 100 years on some of the things there. And then the town hasn't always kept the books up to date here. So of the 6 parcels here, most of these parcels are actually controlled by the school. So this site here called TO, parcel TO, that's currently where the town offices are sitting, which is actually originally was a school, was under the care and custody of the school and never released from school purposes there. You see parcel E is where the baseball field is. Lot 3 comprises most of Alumni Field. Parcel AF, which is where one of the schools is sitting, is actually controlled by the Board of Selectmen. It was actually never transferred to the schools, even though we have a school built on top of it there. So step 1 is the Board of Selectmen are going to need to transfer parcel AF to the school committee so that we actually control all of the buildings that are on the parcels there. And then the request into the school committee is to release a portion of land in here so that the library site could be sited on there. What I have over here is I tried to do a rough overlay of where each of those parcel lines matches up with the interior deed pieces there. And what you'll see is using some of you can't use just sketches in terms of determining actual, whether our buildings intersect any of those old property lines within the deeds there on it. So there's no clear parcel for us to release for the slope site. It has to actually be defined there. And then likewise, the Board of Selectmen would like us to release the town offices back to the town there. But again, we have no assurances that the parcel called TO is actually where the town offices are built, because they weren't necessarily built to these survey lines here on it. So one of the things I think we as a school committee need to do is one, get the parcel cleanly defined there on it. Again, with the transfer of this site to the school committee, and then I would recommend that we have a surveyed release of the land, not try to release it based on the old parcel definitions. The town council sent us a draft motion requesting release of parcel TO back to the town, and then release of the slope site. But right now, I don't have a survey drawing of where the slope site is, so I don't know how we would process a motion to release that portion of land right now. So there's some pieces here that I think need to get documented so that we can do it correctly on it. And if you scroll down just a little bit further, what I'd like to, there should be a second drawing.
Try expanding the email.
Yeah, click any of the little dots here. No, under dots.
That's all there is.
Underneath.
No, right, stop scrolling.
Oh, there, that's
On
it.
the dots. There you go.
Sorry.
What I guess I'm maybe recommending to the school committee is that perhaps we have a survey line placed where we find an appropriate point within the lot, split it so that clearly all of the items, what I call Lot 1, are where we're currently operating the school functions from. And then Lot 2, we release that whole lot for municipal purposes, of which, if the selectmen then decide to put a subdivision within there to be the slope site, they're the ones actually managing that part of the process, and we're not involved in that anymore. That would have the effect of releasing town hall back to the town, we would be an occupant on the third floor rather than controlling the building on it. The one piece that we would have to address is currently the tennis courts are situated somewhere on one of these pieces here. I would propose that we'd be releasing that back for general municipal uses, which by practice, we've always sort of considered them municipal courts, not actually school property. So, but we are using them for the school program that we beef up the MOU with Park and Rec to make sure that it's acknowledged that that is part of our sports program on it there. I think at the Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday night, there was agreement that we ought to clean up all of the paperwork, but there's also the competing timelines to try to get the motions all in effect in time for town meeting there. But, you know, my recommendation is the school committee is we recommend to the selectmen that we proceed with this plan, and we try to figure out how to vote the appropriate actions with them so that everything can proceed there. But I'm also uncomfortable releasing a lot without having a survey plan that says exactly what we're releasing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's been communicated to the town side already, right?
I've tried communicating that. I want to make sure that, I think...
So that process is unfolding. We've been in contact with them, there's communication, there's back and forth, we're trying to...
Yeah, I'm not sure of everybody's sense of urgency that, I don't know how we vote to release without a survey. But I don't know if the library has commissioned a formal survey that would identify the lot corners for the library. A surveyed, you know, a registered survey plan.
Right, so I discussed that with the architect in trying to get that information to you.
Yeah.
And he said that right now he's working on finalizing the design.
Yep.
So once he's finalized that, he can tell us, you know, where to do the survey. So that is the plan to do a survey after the plan is finalized, which will be by a week or two.
So I think we could probably communicate to the selectmen that I think, you know, we vote that we're in agreement with the approach there, and then I think pending receipt of all final documentation, we could then formally release that piece of property there on it. But I would like to also communicate to them that I'd recommend to the committee here that we proceed against the plan of just cleaning up all of the ownership issues on that lot, so that, you know, it's the way it's actually being used rather than historical record there.
I have a couple of questions. First, for the library, is the hope to have an article placed in the warrant for fall town meeting regarding this property so that you can go forward with the grant application by January?
So what we've been informed by the MBLC that will be providing the grant, that all we need is a documented vote in the minutes from either the school committee or the board of selectmen, whoever ends up owning it in the end, by January for the construction grant.
By January?
By January. But then at May town meeting, we'll need a 2/3 vote to get it official. But for the purposes of the grant application, all we need is the minutes, basically, from whichever board ends up owning it.
So nothing needs to happen at fall town meeting?
Okay, that's a little, I was unaware of that part.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, so I think what we would need then from you is the surveyed plan. We could then vote that contingent on all the, you know, the grant being granted and the, I think it's just contingent on the grant being awarded. And if it wasn't awarded, it would revert back to us, and then we don't have to actually have it in front of town meeting by November. That takes a lot of pressure off, because I was concerned about how we would iterate this, because I think you still have a couple of trips to the planning board also involved in this.
Yeah, so the library commissioners, as far as they're concerned, they're fine with a vote and it being conditional. That's the whole thing.
All right, so that sounds like...
That makes it a little easier than
so
what I
it sounds
thought.
like we got an idea how we're gonna get there, it's just executing, but it seems like the timeline is sufficient to get it done the right way and not have to kind of make something kludgy. Let's try and we have enough time to at least try to get it done the right way. I appreciate you put a fair amount of effort into this already. I'm gonna make you keep going. But, you know, clearly we'll get there. It's just a question of when, not if,
And what I would like to do is I've been representing this is sort of where the committee is going.
Yeah.
I would like maybe confirmation vote that this is what you would
you want to vote or just consensus?
Something to just so make sure that I'm speaking as on behalf of the board. at
Yeah,
that point,
I'm
not
fine
just
with
as
all the
an
work you've been
approach.
doing in the direction that it's going. Do you guys have any caveats or concerns or comments or questions or input for Darryl direction?
Thanks for not putting us on my lap.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure I'm not
Yeah.
over-representing
No,
the position here.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
And I think,
Keep up
I
the
think
good
the
work.
intent of the school committee is we want to try to help make this process happen as smoothly as possible.
But at the
there are
same
the
time-
underlying legal
right.
issues that we need to make sure
Right.
we're okay on our end.
Okay.
And I think we've unearthed enough kooky stuff, like, let's just get it all straightened out one time, done, and then we won't have to revisit this again for any other purpose. And this goes beyond the library. You know, hopefully that'll happen, and this is the impetus for that, but if it's not, then let's just get it straightened out anyway. And, you know, just won't be a problem for anybody else when the next time some other thing comes up that would, you know, make this relevant again.
Well, no, I mean, if they do continue with looking at a community center approach, again, this is going to be the same land that's going to be into play. It would be better if the town could just deal with it as a, you know, a Board of Selectmen parcel at that point.
We'll have new neighbors, same as the old neighbors. Who maintains the tennis courts right now?
It's done through the cooperative of Park and Rec, Highway Department, and the town.
And if there were a larger capital issue, that would...
So, for example, I didn't realize that, because for all practical purposes, I've always considered those tennis courts a town resource. In fact, actually, Park and Rec is the one that sponsored the motion to PMBC to have it resurfaced last year. And again, I just thought, because I thought Park and Rec, until I dug into the records and realized Park and Rec doesn't actually control that parcel there. So, you know, like I said, from a practical perspective, Park and Rec has been maintaining that.
I mean,
part
it's
of
not
the
a
facility.
field, but it's an outdoor facility.
Yeah.
And the intent of the MOA, as it's currently written, is that they are in charge of outdoor recreational facilities. And comes out of their budget, and in terms of the money, the labor comes out of the highway department. You know, I don't know exactly how much has to be done on a tennis court. You know, I think it gets cleaned and swept as needed.
Yeah.
And smaller, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the new surface was about a $13,000.
Would we want to have an MOA ready to go with the town about the use of the tennis court when we make this motion?
So I think that what's going to happen is, I think the MOA is going to come under significant revisit, well beyond this thing. I think there's been enough talk about how the fields are maintained and how
Part of
that...
a larger MOA, not just the tennis court?
Exactly, yeah, I think we're going to do the whole MOA, take another really good look at it, and obviously we'll put this on there and get it, but I think that's going to end up being a very small piece of what's going to be a fairly significant effort. And it's, you know, it's not us, I think all three parties realize that, you know, it was arduous to get it done the first time. It served its purpose at the time, but I think we're all recognizing now that maybe we need to think about, you know, is there a better way to get some of these things done that's going to serve all three parties?
How long has it been in effect?
About 6 or 7 years, yeah. Chuck hacked it out.
Chuck finished it
Yeah,
when I
Chuck
got on
finished
board.
It was my first year that I sat down with Chuck and the rec board and hammered out, so almost 6 years.
Yeah, so I think, you know, I think we do want to maybe start, you know, I haven't engaged Park and Rec with this concept here, you know, that we probably do need to make sure we have some level of understanding
Yeah,
that it's going to be
I'm not worried
status
about that.
quo
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
And
I think that's all that'll take, is just a quick discussion, and I think we'll be fine.
Darryl, do you need anything from us to help move this forward?
So there is one piece that when I talked to town council, he said he did not think it was in effect for this. There is there's DESE regulations concerning release of property there, particularly if it's received state funding. for any construction, because if you release it too soon, there's, there's there's ties associated with accepting funding on properties. He thought that that regulation came into effect after this was no longer used as a school, and we also I don't have access to the records of, did this facility ever receive state funds?
Right.
Because it's a 50-year tie on the funds. It's a very old building, so and I don't know if technically we decommissioned it according to all of the regulations, but there's a little bit of checking that I think needs to be done in that area there, because there was somebody, I don't know if we ever voted that we're moving out in town and not using it as a school, for example, which is technically required by the DESE regulations, or at least the regulations that are in effect today. Whether they were in effect when the school was actually no longer used as a school, I don't know.
Well, I can have the school committee legal counsel look at this. My reservation is be pricey. So I want to make, if they could do a surface look, and if they can't find something, then I can have them stop. But my experience, when you get into these things, price tag can rise very, very quickly because of the lack of track record or the history that's available. So, we can, if you would like, we can engage our counsel and see if they can find something fairly quick. But I wouldn't recommend that we just give them a blank ticket to go into this. I think it'd be very costly.
Right. Yeah, because I think town council, it took a while to find all of the sub-deeds within that, because not all of them were fully recorded with the registry of deeds. Some of them only existed on paper in town hall.
Well, I think the biggest concern is if we release that property, does it affect our opportunity for future subsidies? I think that's the question we'd like to answer if we can.
And I think maybe that question should be a surgical question, because the way I read the thing, where's our lawyer? Oh, he's not here tonight. I think it only if we haven't received any funding for it, or we're outside of the windows, there's no connection to it there on it. The concern would be is if there's still a tail associated with, that we're still obligated there. That's the part that's ambiguous to, unknown to me at this point.
Do you know if the town lawyer is willing to put something in writing in this regard, stating that it is in his legal opinion that there is no liability in terms of future grant funding?
I think what I may do then is put that in the request back to the town administrator.
See what happens.
Can we get town council's legal opinion on that section of the CMR
And then if we can get that, then I can ship it to our council and just get an opinion on that statement. I think that would be far more cost effective.
So I'll include that in my request to the
Back to them. All right, we'll keep the process working, and frankly, I mean, it's you've been on top of it, and we're certainly not roadblocking.
Yeah.
It's just.
No, I just want to make sure I'm not going on track that the
No.
committee as a whole is not comfortable with.
Appreciate it. All right, Sam and Dave. Not the Sam and Dave, just a Sam and Dave, but the great R&B group. Thank you. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right. Highlights from our summer retreat. It was fun.
That was fun. There you go. That's a highlight.
Next time, can I go to the beach or something?
I can work on that.
Kelly, want to give us a quick
Yeah,
rundown of
sure.
what we covered there?
So we talked about it in public session. We really focused on two areas in our retreat. The first area took a look at our budgeting approach, and we looked at ways in which we could move forward and start talking about visionary budgeting. And we're already in student need budgeting processes, and sometimes we're in reactionary. It really depends on what part of the budget we're talking about. But we all felt it was important that we start moving forward with a plan, a 5-year plan in terms of what we think we're going to need, especially with the community growing and the housing market changing. And it's going to be difficult to do, but at least it's a reference that we can look at. So I've created a spreadsheet, and once I have a better handle on our student needs this year, we'll start filling it out. I really need that baseline to start from that point on. And what I'll try to do when we create the 5-year plan is try to regulate the increases every year so that it's more of a steady increase rather than up and down. Nobody likes mill rates, for example, that spike and then plateaus. So that's what we will do for you in the next month or so, month and a half, and I think that'll be a good document to reference as we're forging our way, to the future. And the other part of the retreat focused on what global citizenship is and the need for our students to be globally astute and globally aware. And it's quite an important area, a 21st century skill, because we all know as our students enter the workforce and go through post-secondary education, they are going to be dealing with companies that go or extend beyond our nation. So that they really need to develop those skill sets. So we had a great conversation in that area, and that pretty well is most of our retreat.
Thanks. All right, new business, personnel update.
Enclosed in your package, you can see that we've had a few changes this year. And I certainly won't go through each one with you. There was some movement, or people moving out into other positions, some retirements, some transfers, and quite a, not a maze, but a lot went on this summer, as you can see. It's important that you know, and we've already talked about this as a group, but haven't done it in formal session, that we stuck with our staffing plan in terms of FTEs. We actually have decreased in some areas, ed assistants, for example, but that could fluctuate throughout the year as new students move in. We were faced with building an additional special ed program at Russell Street as a result of our student demographics changing. As a result of that, I didn't feel comfortable moving ahead and replacing our math consultant that had left and was delivering consultant services at Shaker Lane and Russell Street. So that's still a position that we didn't fill to compensate for the special ed position that we hired for. Other than that, things went as planned, and we're staffed to certainly, in my opinion, meet the needs of the students that we have within our school district. Any questions on the staffing update?
I had one question.
Sure.
Just regarding special ed staffing, and this might be because I think we all see the regular ed staff more often, so it's easier to know where people are going and what's going on. The last couple years, and maybe it's extended beyond my tenure, there's been a lot of transitions, and I know that like a SPED TA, those folks are going to turn over pretty quickly in every school district just because of the role that they have. The school psychologist position turned over this year, and I don't need to get into into the specifics. I just wanted to point out that as we do adapt to our student population, I think there is value in having maybe a little less of less turnover. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a good reason in every individual case, but I wanted to sort of look at the forest of the trees here and point that out.
Right. We had a little more change this year than we have in past years, and all for good reasons. People advancing in their careers, and there was some unexpected change though, And as a superintendent, when the end of June rolled around, we had people taking jobs in July. It really, you already have the puzzle made, for example, and you have the plan in place, and then you're reorganizing on the basis of somebody leaving and who we're hiring to bring in. So it took some strategic planning to make sure that we were set for the beginning of the year. And as you know, some of these jobs are very competitive, and that's something that we've talked about before. We need to make sure that we're offering sufficient wages to our employees, and that's not going to prevent some from leaving. And for me as a superintendent, if they get a job promotion, that's what I want to see. I mean, that's kudos to our district for helping prepare them for the next career in their life. But there are some situations where we had people move for higher paying jobs this year, and that's something that we need to consider as we move forward as a district. Where's the balance between making sure that our pay scale is competitive, but also making sure that it's affordable to the community.
Thank you.
All right. School startup?
We had a great start up to the school year. It went very, very well. Our teachers were energized and excited. Our kids were excited to get back in classes, and everything was up and running, and it was just a smooth start. Within 3 days, it almost felt like we never had a summer break. I mean, everybody was in routines already, and it was really a great experience. And I'd like to thank our administrators and teachers and also our parents for helping out with a smooth transition. It's hard to get out of the summer mold, so to speak, and we did that very, very quickly. And when I walk around the schools, kids are engaged in learning, and you've been following my Twitter site and the principal's Twitter sites, you can see all the things that are happening in their schools on a daily basis. So it was a great start. I wanted to bring to your attention, though, I do every year, although it's the preliminary attendance, student attendance count, it was worthy of taking a look at. As you know, our official attendance that goes into the state is based on October 1st enrollment, and that's how they base our funding. So I gave you last year's, the July 1st, and this year's, and we've had a little bit of movement, which happens every year. Shaker Lane, interesting when you look at Shaker Lane, and again, this is preliminary, things can happen between now and the end of October, but we're down 28 students, but last year we went up 36, I think it was. So that does happen. Some of the fluctuation, our pre-K is down 15 students from last year, and that may change. We're going to watch that fairly closely. And kindergarten transition was down 9, and grade 1 was down 4. And some of it is the different class sizes, moving from grade to grade. But the pre-K program, that's something it surprised me a little bit. I thought we would stabilize with the new construction going on in town and younger families moving in, but that may happen next year. It may not have been just the year for that. Russell Street went up by 22 students, and third grade went up by 21 students. And thank goodness we added another staff member to Russell Street School, or we would have been coming here tonight and asking to hire another teacher. So we're okay with our classroom sizes. The grade 4 class went down by 8, but again, that was just because of different class sizes from year to year, and the grade 5 class is up by 9. Middle school had a decrease of 7 students. Our grade 6 class is up by 16, and grade 7 class down by 12. Grade 8 class down by 12. Remember, we had that large class in grade 8 moving into the high school last year, or this year more correctly. And our high school had an increase of 25 students from last June, plus 13 in grade 9, plus 8 in grade 10, negative 14 grade 11, and plus 18 in grade 12. Our district-wide increase was 12 students. So you can see how complex this is from year to year. We're predicting an upward trend, but it depends on people moving away, taking their parents taking other jobs, and so it's kind of a two-way flow. So in the end, we're at 12 at this point in time.
District-wide.
District-wide. Any questions on enrollment?
I just had a quick question on the Russell Street third grade. So we had budgeted last year to add a classroom teacher because we were concerned about class size, and then we had the increase in enrollment. I think it was 21 students you said for third grade.
16.
16 for
No,
third grade.
sorry, let me go back and put my glasses on. 21, you're right.
Okay. Are we going to be concerned? I mean, maybe this is a bubble class, and from what you just told us, I know that I can't see anything in the numbers that you're not seeing, and I don't envy that responsibility of trying to look into that. But are we still concerned about class sizes, not maybe today, but next year or in the next 2 or 3 years?
Next year, my recommendation, or our recommendation from the leadership team, just speaking about Russell Street, we'll be recommending one more staff member to get back where we were, and then we're whole again, so to speak. And with the populations coming up, we're going to need that extra teacher. And again, it's so difficult to predict in terms of new students moving in. Russell Street seemed to be a bit of a bubble this year at 22. High school took the lead at 25. So, but a lot of that 25 was that large grade 8 class coming into grade 9. So, kind of, without understanding the numbers, people might have the wrong understanding of what actually happened there. So, that would be, at this point in time, our recommendation is to add one more elementary teacher to Russell Street next year.
Thank you.
It would be interesting, maybe, I mean, projections are always hard. I'm just looking between the two and then skewing them a year in terms of, you look at the 131 in second grade becomes 135 in third grade kind of thing. So it looks like 4 additional students moved in for that population. It might be interesting to sort of see where, as we watch that skew, where we actually are picking up the students, because it does look like, if you had K and transitional together, and then you look at this year's incoming K and transitions is approximately the same size. So we could look to see where, are we still coming in at the same, and then the ones moving in are actually in the middle grades, in terms of.
Yeah, we actually do that when we're. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think you're saying you're
we
already on.
We do that, especially during school choice season. That's how we determine how many students we can take in via school choice. But it certainly is there are multiple variables that are determining enrollment in each grade, and it's not just one variable. So it's important to remember that it is a response from multiple variables. We've been asked a number of times since construction started in town, can you predict how many students are coming into your schools? And it's very, very hard to do because you have the people leaving as well. Mm-hmm. We're seeing an upward trend, but certainly not as prevalent as we thought it was going to be at this point in time. Yep. Realistically, without doing a lot of heavy mathematics to this whole thing, I was thinking that every year would be perhaps going up by 30, 40 students system-wide. That was my prediction, and we're up by 12 at this point in time. So.
And then I think we talked a little bit at the summer piece there was, trying to make sure we understand what we think our capacity is, both physically and, I guess if you then populated all those classrooms that we have with teachers, what's a kind of becomes our magic number that we've got a problem relative just the infrastructure and let alone making sure they have enough teachers for that.
Right. So what we're doing there is we're working on the allowable per student population per school, and then we're going to back that off into, okay, that's the total. How does that look like? How does that look for individual classes? The trickiest one is going to be the high school. Yeah. To try to figure that out, because we have students in multiple grades taking the same class, and so that's going to be an interesting one. It can be done. We'll just count up the total number of classes and try to develop a pattern and go from there. So that's what we are working on. So that's important as well.
Thank you.
All right, good. All right, partnership with Teachers 21.
I'd already mentioned that this evening, but just wanted to spend a minute to say that we're really excited about this partnership because one of my pet peeves with professional development is in order for it to actually make a pronounced difference in a school district or a school, we have to continue on over a period of time so that we have that opportunity to set targets and reflect and then move forward and tweak certain things if we need to. But this partnership with Teachers 21 allows us to get together beyond our leadership team and include our curriculum coordinators. We're looking at a number of areas, enhancing a culture of continuous improvement, which I think we're very strong at doing, but it's certainly worth reflecting on. Transforming conflict into learning. One can always work on looking at conflict as potential opportunities for positive change. Leadership strategies for alleviating stress and anxiety in our students, one that continues to show up on our Yarvis survey. And we have some good strategies in place, but we need to continue working in that area so that when that survey is administered, we can look at it and feel that we're on the right track. We're seeing a decrease in those areas. And it's not just school alone that's contributing to anxiety, but we have the community's children for a fair amount of the day, so we have to make sure we're doing everything we can to alleviate stress in those areas. Perspective taking, that's something we haven't talked about a lot, but it's considered it to be an essential 21st century skill, which makes sense. Applying growth mindset research in our work as educators. I showed a video the other day at the administrative meeting that it really focused on the importance of truly understanding growth mindset when you're dealing with students throughout the year. And embedding social and emotional learning, as I've already talked about, into our day-to-day work. So those are the areas that we're focusing on. We have that November PD Day, that full day that's terrific. We're going to focus on some of those areas as well as continuing to offer courses in technology. So we're really excited about those initiatives for this year. It ties directly into our strategic plan, which is important, and our school SIPs. Any questions on what we're doing there? I'm going to say some of you, but I bet all of you, knowing the group that I've been meeting with during the summertime, in terms of the high school robotics club, they've certainly been visible, and they're excited, and they already have around 30 students signed up for robotics. So I just wanted to mention to you that they're doing tremendous work. We probably have 18 or 20 parents, would you say, working together, and
We have about 6 mentors and then a whole bunch of other parents.
yeah, and it's really interesting having conversations with them. They have a vision. It's a very solid vision, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this program evolve within our district. So they will be coming to our next school committee meeting and doing a presentation, and they've set up a 401c. Sometimes I get mixed up with other countries.
501c?
It's a 501c here?
Nonprofit organization.
Nonprofit, thank you. Nonprofit organization, 501c, different somewhere else, as you know. And they're forming a boosters club, which I think is important. They will be doing, so they've already started, some fundraising. Robotics clubs are not cheap, but we have the momentum and I think the connectivity with industry to really have this flourish. And Cheryl Temple's son is key in helping move this forward. I believe he was introduced to robotics when he was a junior. Is that right?
8th grade.
8th grade. And he is just really pumped about helping us out. And again, excited about having this become part of our high school. And we'll probably see some of it trickle down into middle school as well.
Great.
Oh, one other thing, if I could, we met yesterday with DEP in terms of lead water testing. So we're going to start that process. We're working with the water department. They're going to help take the samples. And we have to have all the testing done by October 29th, so it's going to be fast. As soon as I have more information, I'll send a letter home to parents, letting them know what we're doing. We're not doing this because we think we have an issue. We're doing this just to be proactive. The state, excuse me, was offering free testing, and we thought it would be a good idea to test our potable water, see where we're at.
Good, thank you. All right, we are at the second opportunity for interested citizens.
Can I follow up on the FRC
Yes.
comments? So I've got involved in the FRC. My oldest son is 18. As we've been out, we've been at Third Thursday. We were at the country fair just trying to get out there and do some publicity for the team. I just wanted to put on something to consider for the future. I can't even begin to count the number of parents who asked us if the town and the schools were going to be able to sponsor a first Lego team, first Lego League, which is for grades 3 to 8. There's an incredible amount of interest. So if this works well, I would urge everyone to consider doing that in future years.
I think we would clearly love to see that happen, and we try to make it as
The startup costs for that are significantly
yeah,
less.
I think that's really, obviously with the robotics club, the thing that's making this really take off is all of that, help, the volunteer help. So we would love to help facilitate that, but it will require something like that.
There was a lot of
Well, then that's great. We'll do everything we can to make space available and time in the day and all that other kinds of stuff. That'd be cool. Yeah. So that's what happens. You start at the varsity level, now you need a feeder program, and you start going down lower, and that's how we go.
Are the programs the same model, same type of model?
They're very similar. My younger son is doing a private FLL team, actually. It's a great program.
So they align pretty well?
Yeah.
Just to add a piece about the, we established 3 first FLL teams at the middle school where I was last year. And their season begins in August and ends pretty much the beginning of December, so that it's fast. You build your field, you get your game, you find out what the competition is. The competitions are beginning of November, towards the end of November, and by mid-December, everything's over. So the competition part, it's shorter, where first takes on a life of its own, but Lego League is easier to manage and shorter spurts.
All right, we'll look forward to that. We'll look forward to seeing them in 2 weeks. All right, subcommittee reports. PMBC.
Yeah, I thought I was giving up policy and going for one of the cushy ones that they are in. PMBC has been very busy there. So over the summer, the Shaker Lane parking lot is all, and road should be all finished, and the sidewalks replaced.
Looks fantastic.
On that, and I think that project is done. People may have noticed at Russell Street, we repaved the circle and in front of Tiger's Den, and right now it only has a scratch coat on it because the estimates came in a little bit higher. There was a lot more damage to the tar. So once they started grinding it down, there was no tar left. So they ended up having to just scratch coat it in order to get it up there. We went to Finance Committee the other night and requested the additional $30,000 to finish that. So they're going to be coming in on Saturday. They'll obviously be working with you to schedule that day, and then basically put the finish coat on and then repaint the lines, because we didn't want to have to leave that to summer, as well as maybe address concerns from folks that go, why did we only do half the project? There's not a lot of press on that. And then to address one other concern that we've heard from people, when we designed that project there, we intentionally did a sort of a cut line at the back of the bleachers, knowing that Alumni Field would have work being done on it. So the reason we didn't pave any further down was because we didn't want to pave it and then the Alumni Field activity reconfigure the whole parts of that there. So that was already planned not to deal with that there. Let's see, one other activity that people may be startled at there is what's occurring at the track. Over the last year, we've been having little failures with the track, little bubbling pieces there. They had been arranging for the company to come back to repair them. When I was working with them and talking about it, I sort of started pushing that we needed to have that investigated as to why is it bubbling there. After an investigation by the manufacturer and the installer, they determined that the material was actually defective there, and under warranty, they agreed to pull up the whole track and then resurface it there. So that's what's happening now at the track. I think it was ground down last Friday, and then in a few days, they should be by to start putting down a whole new base coat of track material.
Material was delivered, and they've got it scraped and swept and ready to go.
Yeah.
That's great.
You know, so that was a little work on our part there too, but it was great. The companies stood behind their product and are doing the right thing for us here.
Thank you for pushing for that investigation instead of just trying to fix what's in front of you.
And then in other pieces here, PMBC, Steve Mark actually ended up executing the projects there. It was, there was painting for the locker room pieces there to go along with the other capital upgrades there. Some Russell Street pavers and landscaping also, I think, got executed over the summer. And then the one pending project that we have that is the finishing the Shaker Lane unit events. The money's been allocated. We just need to, work with Steve to get the
Yeah, we have to get some
quotes out
engineering
and
work done on
engineering
it.
done for that, so that will take care of the last of the Univent project there, so that's all that's going on now, and then we need to be thinking about is, I think at the November budget summit type of thing there, they'll be looking for what's our estimates going, there, so it never stops.
It doesn't.
Kind of thing there. So that's what's been going on PMBC over the summer.
All right, great, thank you. All right, Budget Subcommittee, there's two things I'd like to talk about tonight. One is the final cherry sheets came out for the state budget, and the town got some extra money, about $100,000 total, about $50,000 of it, or $51,000 in Chapter 70, and the balance in local aid. There was a joint meeting between the FinCom, Board of Selectmen, and us on Monday to talk about the November special town meeting, and that topic came up, and Darryl was there representing us. You want to give us a rundown of how that went, Darryl?
Yeah. During the planning for the fall town meeting, I was just trying to see if I could have find the exact number there. I requested that, I think the town received about $57,000 in Chapter 70 funds, but there was like about a $4,000 or $5,000 offset for charter school pieces there. So there was a net of approximately $52,000 into the town there. I requested that money be allocated at town meeting to the school committees, school departments, budget appropriation, with the purpose that we could then offset our school choice spending there.
Projected spending, yeah.
They agreed in principle, and they asked me to bring to the committee tonight to request a formal motion and vote on that, so that we can send them a memo formally requesting that transfer. So,
Okay.
and I was trying to find what the exact amount was.
It's on the screen. I found the email from Bonner, 52,362. I think it's 52,362.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Any questions or discussion before we entertain a motion on that? Okay. I mean, the idea is that, when we're going through the budget process, because the state budgeting process is not aligned on the same calendar that our budgeting process is, we have to make assumptions. And we're typically fairly, as a town, conservative about the assumptions that we make. And occasionally, we underestimate what we think we're going to get, and this is exactly what happened in this instance. If we remember when we did our budget, we asked for a higher increase in the appropriation than we actually got, and we worked with the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen as a school committee, we ended up getting our full financing that we asked for, the increase that the admin team had been supporting. The way we did that was we got our increase in appropriation, and we were going to make up the shortfall through use of school choice. what this is hopefully going to allow us to do is to be less reliant on, and we were basically in a deficit situation. We were going to spend more out of school choice than we were projecting to take in. Not by a lot, but nonetheless, it was a deficit situation. The goal would be, if we're able to do this and get this money into the appropriation and be less reliant on school choice, is to reduce or even eliminate that deficit situation. Having said that, it's early in the year, and we always anticipate the possibility of tapping into school choice beyond what we had originally budgeted if things on the ground change. But we also sometimes see opportunity where we spend less than we had originally budgeted in certain line items, and we can, make it work and not overspend what we had originally budgeted. So it's a long way to go before we make a final determination about how much we end up spending on a school choice, but this will help us, try to be less reliant on that than we had initially projected. So at this point,
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion that request a article at town meeting to add to the school department appropriation of $52,362.
for the FY 2017.
17 school department budget.
Second. Okay. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Great. Kelly and Steve, can you guys put that together next week, and I'll come in and sign it, and we'll get it out to them, okay?
What's the deadline for warrant articles?
2
So-
weeks.
Yeah, there's a placeholder in there, an article on the warrant already, so that part's okay. We just, as long as you finalize the actual number before it goes to the printer, we'll be okay, so we're fine.
And they were in agreement. There was no disagreement at
Right.
the meeting there, so I think it's,
So we-
they're
I'll go work
expecting
upon it.
the...
Yeah, the timing, this shouldn't be an issue.
Who would you like the letter addressed to?
Let's address it to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen and the chairman of the FinCom, and then CC the town admin team.
The one request the chairman of the Finance Committee asked was what was the, what would we be using it for? So I said we were planning on using it to offset the school choice spending. He would like that in the memo.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
There.
that's fine.
To offset the school choice spending that we went into
Yeah.
deeper than we wanted.
Just that we're going to use,
Right. Right. I think his point is that we're not going to take it and hire another new teacher that we hadn't already budgeted for. It's his prerogative. If we thought we needed a new teacher, we should ask for it during the budget year.
But I
Budget
mean,
process.
we weren't planning on, basically, I told them, I think our plan was to move it to offset the
Yeah.
thing there. Again, they don't control our spending of the
Correct.
school choice funds.
Yeah, and
But
that's why I throw the caveat out there that that is the plan.
the plan,
But as
yes.
we execute our budget and we execute our school year, if we need to, if we need to provide more services or we see a need that is not being met, then we have our reserve accounts to use for that purposes.
It's a responsibility. to do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. And they're fine with that. They just want to know that, that's what we're doing. So, all right, so we're good on that. The other thing I would like to do is, I would like us to start thinking about the budget subcommittee meeting calendar. We don't have to do it tonight, but I just want us to,
Get that
I
up
want to
and
get
running.
going.
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
think we should wait till October. We should start, meeting as regularly as possible, and start strategizing. The November budget summit will get on top of this before we know it. And we talked, some of the things we talked about at the summer retreat were, getting out in front and advocating earlier, and getting more information ready to go and sooner in the process. So that seems to be what the trend is, and then the request from the town side.
So as we start to put schedules together, last year we were meeting, I think, Friday mornings.
Yeah. Why don't we
Does that
touch
still
base?
work for you, or? do
Let's
we
touch
want
base
to change that,
offline.
or-
Yeah, there, let's do that. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we can get something, we
Yeah.
can figure it out tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it would also be good for us to be in a meeting while Kelly and Steve are coming up with that 5-year vision.
Oh, for sure.
budget.
Yeah, no doubt.
That'd be good for us to be involved in.
So, yeah, so we'll get that going, and then we'll come back with the schedule when we have it sorted out, what everybody knows it's going to be. Those are all posted, there were public meetings, and we'll get that out there, okay? All right, great. Policy subcommittee?
Actually, I
Oh,
had
sorry.
one thing more. I can't put my finger on it there. Earlier this summer, or midsummer, there was updates to Mass General Law. There was like a whole laundry list of cleanups. In it, there was a provision that allows school departments to establish their own reserve accounts for special ed. That might be something we want to look at there.
To look into it.
There, you know, because that might give us another tool in terms of working with the town on how we're managing some of these spike costs coming in there.
Yeah.
It was just a summary that was in the little thing. I don't have the details of what the statute
Yeah,
allows
I'm
for.
looking into it and looking into what's required. We may have to go to town meeting and get a vote from town meeting to approve that, so if that's the case, I'll work with Bonnie to see if we can't get that on the November ballot or the November warrant, just so it's out there. But
Okay,
it's a little early.
if you want to do that, then you got to get going.
Because it closes in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
Do we meet before it closes?
Huh?
Do we meet before it closes? Does it close on the 2nd? Or our next meeting is on the 2nd?
26th.
26th.
We meet the 24th.
Would you want to put that on the fall town meeting rather than spring? Probably fall would.
I don't know.
Would be
You know, actually,
it
let's
might
think
not
about
be
it.
urgent enough.
Yeah, I would think that,
Spring might be fine.
yeah, the spring might be fine, because if we decide that it's something that we want to do, the first opportunity to fund it would be in the spring. And we could probably just go ahead and get the vote to authorize the use of it, and then any budgeting we did would be contingent on that passing. So I think we're okay. Let's do that. That'll give us more time to do the research and think about how we want to do it. And there might be some dialogue we want to have, preliminary dialogue with the FinCom.
I bring it up so that I think it will help us, or help them see that we're looking towards where all of these things are going, rather, us being proactive on it rather than reactive to somebody else asking us about it is where I'd
Can
like
you
to
check
be.
also with the other business managers to see if there are other districts that are maybe doing this or have been doing this, and see what their thoughts are and practices and how they went about it?
Absolutely.
Just us being out in front of these things is
That reminds
useful.
me, before we jump to policy, also in that bill related to the school budgets, the municipal modernization bill, there were discussions about letting school districts keep, and you're all going to start laughing at me in a second, the special education circuit breaker beyond the period that DOR just told us we couldn't. And I remember it made it into one version of the bill. I'm not sure if it came out in the final conference report.
The
It
summary
not.
did not have that in it that I saw.
I heard something about it recently, so I want to check again. But I will check in with.
Don't we have anybody on Beacon Hill that can do check on that?
Yeah, that's what I'll do tomorrow. But I'm not serving.
Thank you.
I think that's the purpose of having the special ed circuit breaker fund.
Yeah.
Special ed fund.
Yeah.
sure
I think
there was an
that
update. There was an
Might have been a
update to
compromise.
how DOR was going to be requiring how we allocate those funds in a very technical way, and I didn't dig into it, but I can do that.
We'll put our brain trust on it and see what we can figure out.
If only we had someone who worked for the administration in education law.
Yeah. We usually don't. The way we do, yeah. All right, anything else
That's
on
it.
budget? All right, great, thank you. Policy?
Yes, so we will, Kelly and I are going to get meeting for this year and go over policy for the year, but before we do that, just for tonight, I wanted to say in public that when we were at the school committee retreat last month, we did update policy JICH per statute, and the reason we did it during the August recess, August retreat, see now I'm thinking Beacon Hill, during the August retreat was because this law required that the update be in place for September 1st. It was a relatively minor change in language. We are compliant with the MASC policy. That policy will likely change again in the next year because there's another component of the law that will kick in presumably this coming school year, although that can change, and that relates to a coming change will relate to the screening of students for drug and alcohol addictions. This is the law was the opioid prevention bill that was passed last year, or earlier this spring rather. So that's why that happened in August instead of during the usual September meeting.
Good. Thank you. That it? All right. Any other business? We don't need an executive session tonight, but we are in a year where we will be negotiating a new contract with the LEA, so we will have some executive sessions to deal with that.
I did receive a letter from the association. They're supposed to send a letter during the negotiation year. They've done that with no starting date.
Yeah, what I would like to do is, and I sent an email to you and Mike Mazzoni, I'd like to get past fall town meeting.
Yes.
Let's get past that, and then we can start to talk to them about schedule and process and all that.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, no new business. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.